All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a region that's, well, simmering on the absolute edge, a place where the lines between peace and war are constantly being blurred and redrawn. This is the story of West Asia's shadow war. And it all really starts with one feeling: heat. But we're not talking about the weather here. We're talking about the simmering heat of tension. That pressure cooker feeling right before something explodes. It's that unmistakable sense of a region on fire all over again. You're looking at West Asia, and this isn't just a simple map of countries. It's a chessboard of power, politics, and, yes, revenge. It is the perfect breeding ground for a shadow war, a conflict fought through surrogates, through whispers and covert ops, where absolutely nothing is what it seems.
So you have to ask yourself, how did we get here? How did a piece that was so fragile get so completely shattered?
Well, let's just rewind the clock for a second. Just last year, Iran and Israel were tangled up in a direct 12-day war. Then a temporary calm. The fighting stopped, the world kind of held its breath, and then looked away. But those underlying tensions, they never left. And now, here we are in 2026, and the story has taken a completely different turn. Because what was once a direct conflict has, well, it's mutated. We've gone from a contained duel between two major players to a sprawling, messy, and totally unpredictable regional brawl. This, right here, is the new face of the shadow war. And this really shows the shift perfectly. I mean, look at this. Last year, the battle lines were pretty clear: Iran versus Israel. Today, in 2026, it's a full-blown regional fire, with strikes popping up all over the place and new players being dragged into the chaos whether they like it or not. And that fire is spreading fast. The nations now caught in this shadow include almost all of the Gulf states. We're talking Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, and Iraq. Every single one of them is feeling the heat as this conflict spills right over their borders. Now, what's really fascinating here is the strategy that's emerging. It's not random. Iran's approach is brutally simple and direct. Hit locations, it doesn't matter what country they're in, that host a significant U.S. presence. It's a strategy designed to send the clearest possible message directly to Washington. And, this didn't come out of nowhere. During past negotiations, a very clear warning was put on the table. If there is an action, there will be a response. What was once a diplomatic phrase has now become a brutal, violent reality on the ground. So how exactly is this war being fought? Well, not always with national armies marching in formation. It's being fought with what you might call the phantoms of war. And that brings us to Iran's proxy playbook. Now, for anyone who's not totally sure, a proxy group is basically a force that does the fighting on behalf of another country. They're armed, they're trained, they're funded to fight battles indirectly. This lets the main country exert its power while keeping its own hands clean, or at least claiming they're clean. It is a core tactic of this kind of shadow warfare.
And in this conflict, there's one name that rings out louder than all the others: Hezbollah. So let's just break down why they are such a huge deal. They're based in Lebanon, and they are, without a doubt, Iran's strongest proxy. They're the ones behind the recent attacks coming out of southern Beirut, which kicked off just last Saturday. But here's the kicker, the really crucial part. They have an arsenal so sophisticated it can actually challenge Israel's legendary Iron Dome defense system.
But listen, this conflict isn't just about missiles and rockets. Another, much darker front is opening up. One that doesn't just win battles, but actually tries to rewrite history itself, in blood. And that brings us to a really chilling question. What if the deadliest weapon in this entire conflict isn't a missile at all? Because you have to understand, in a shadow war like this, some deaths are not accidents. They are carefully crafted messages delivered with lethal precision to send a very specific political signal. And there's a kind of terrifying playbook for how it works. It starts with a single shot, often right out in the open, in front of a crowd. The entire nation just freezes in shock. And in that moment of paralysis, governments can fall, armies can start moving, and the entire course of history can be changed by one bullet. It's chaos by design. The source material we're looking at points to this terrifying pattern repeating itself, a history of 5 different leaders, 5 separate moments where a single assassination created huge geopolitical shifts, igniting wars, collapsing alliances, literally redrawing the map. So you see,
The really important point is this. The story isn't just about who was killed. It's about what happened next. It's about the power vacuums that opened up, the new alliances that formed, the wars that followed. That is the true, lasting impact of the assassin's message.
And it all leads to one inescapable conclusion, a lesson that history teaches us again and again and again. Power never ends quietly.